Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Indian Institute of Technology Madras and the Office of Alumni and Corporate Relations, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the launch of Roddam Narasimha Visiting Church ceremony. We are delighted to have distinguished guests joining both in person and online, and we thank each one of you for being part of this special occasion. I invite Professor Ashwin, Professor Srinivasan, and Mr. Kaviraj to please come forward and take their seats on the dais. We are gathered here this afternoon to celebrate a significant milestone, the formal institution of the Roddam Narasimha Visiting Chair, which honors the values of excellence, innovation, and meaningful impact. This visiting chair has been established through the generous support of Mr. Arun Swaminathan, alumnus of the class of 2005, and will serve to nurture and elevate visiting faculty at IIT Madras. To commence this special occasion, may I request everyone to kindly rise for the Tamil Thai Waltz, followed by Vande Mataram. கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் வதனமென திகழ்பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கணமும் மதில் சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரிதனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே 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 வந்தே மாதரம் வந்தே மாதரம் சுஜலாம் சுஃபலாம் மலயஜ शीतलाम् सस्यश्यामलां मातरं वन्दे मातरम् शुभ्रज्योत्स्नां पुलकितयामिनीं फुल्लकुसुमितद्रुमदलशोभिनीं सुहासिनीं सुमधुरभाषिणीं सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्. I request all of you to please be seated. To formally welcome all our distinguished guests, it is my honor to invite Mr. Kaviraj Nair, Chief Executive Officer, Office of Institutional Advancement, IIT Madras, to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Sharon, and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IIT Madras, it is my privilege to welcome you all to this special occasion, the launch of Roddam Narasimha Visiting Chair. And the Roddam Narasimha Visiting Chair commemorates Professor Roddam Narasimha, a recipient of Padma Vibhushan as well, a visionary scientist whose seminal contributions to aerospace engineering, fluid dynamics, and the building of national scientific institutions have left an enduring legacy. We are especially pleased to welcome Professor Narasimha's family. Thank you for being with us online and for lending this moment its deeper meaning. A very warm welcome to our director who will Professor Kamakoti, who will soon join us at this event, to our Dean, Professor Ashwin Mahalingam, Dean Alumni and Corporate Relations, and I also wish to acknowledge the presence of Professor Mahesh, the former Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relations. I extend a special welcome to Professor Sayan Gupta, the head of the department, who has joined along with the distinguished faculty members of the department. And we are deeply honored to have with us Professor K.R. Srinivasan, University Professor at New York University and also associated with the Current Institute, and a globally respected professor for his pioneering contributions for turbulence and fluid dynamics. Professor Srinivasan, we are delighted to have you as the occupant of this chair, and we look forward to learning from you during your time with us. And today's event is also a powerful reminder of what makes IIT Madras truly exceptional when alumni conviction meets academic purpose. In that spirit, we offer our heartfelt and special thanks to Arun Swaminathan. Arun has been a great supporter of IIT Madras throughout the journey. In fact, we have had the privilege of meeting him several times in Bay Area, and he and his wife have hosted us on several occasions and alumni communities. And alumnus of IIT Madras, and he's the benefactor of this visiting chair. Arun's generosity is not just a contribution, it's a statement of belief. A belief in the power of fundamental science, a belief in the capability of IIT Madras to shape the frontiers of knowledge, and a belief that the best way to honor great scientific legacies is to keep great minds in active conversation. Arun, your support is enabling the Institute to bring world-class scholarship into our classrooms, our labs, and our research conversations, creating inspiration for our students and fresh momentum for our faculty. We are truly grateful that you could join us virtually today, and we place on record our deep appreciation of your partnership and your long-term commitment to IIT Madras. And on that note, I welcome you all again, and we look forward to an engaging and insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for setting the tone for today's celebration. I invite Professor Ashwin Mahalingam, Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relations, to share his thoughts and insights on this initiative.
Thank you, Sharon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the launch of the Roddam Narasimha Visiting Chair. Now, I, of course, never had the privilege of meeting Professor Roddam Narasimha, but he is, of course, a legendary figure as far as science and technology in India is concerned, and we are thrilled at IIT Madras that we are able to institute a chair in his name and in his honor. And a large portion of the credit for that, of course, should go to Arun. So Arun's an absolute gem of an alumnus. He's an alumnus from the batch of 2005 and has continued to engage with IIT Madras for several years. And I think the conversation around this chair happened when my predecessor Mahesh Panchagnula was the Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relations. I remember we were all in the US at Arun's house having dinner and just talking about things when we learned that when he was a student at IIT Madras, Arun had actually spent a little bit of time at IIC Bangalore working directly with Professor Roddam Narasimha. And Arun, you can probably retell that story a little bit more accurately in just a moment. But then when Mahesh broached the possibility of commemorating Professor Narasimha's legacy by instituting a chair such as this, Arun was very quick to jump at it, and in a very quick period of time, not only do we have a chair constituted, we also have Professor Srinivasan, again, who I just met a few minutes ago, but whose resume I've been familiar with. And, having gone through that resume, I cannot think of a better first occupant of this chair than Professor Srinivasan. So, Arun, thank you so much for your generosity and also for continuing to engage with IIT Madras. And Professor Srinivasan, thank you for accepting our invitation and being and kicking off this chair in style, if you will. Just a quick word about the chair itself. I think at IIT Madras, we feel chair professorships are a very important part of what makes us a world-class academic university. A chair professorship does at least two things. One, it allows us to commemorate someone's legacy, and in this case, we're commemorating the legacy of Professor Roddam Narasimha, and for years to come, his name will be recognized as part of what we do at IIT Madras because of this chair. But secondly, this is set up as a visiting chair, which means it allows us to bring people from other institutions to IIT Madras. And as we aspire to go from one of India's top institutions to one of the world's best institutions. Global linkages and collaborative work is going to be very critical, and this is going to afford us the opportunity of bringing in top-class scientists like Professor Srinivasan to spend some time at IIT Madras, work collaboratively with us, and enhance the future of science both in India and in the world. So from that perspective, again, we're very, very grateful that we're able to launch this chair today. So again, thank you, Arun. Thank you, Mahesh, for really being the person to put this chair together. And thank you all for coming here. We really look forward to seeing what comes out of this as the years go by. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ashwin. It's now my privilege to invite Mr. Arun Swaminathan, Equity Portfolio Manager, Capital Group, and the generous benefactor of this chair, who is joining us virtually today to deliver the keynote address.
Arun, just before you get started, there was one thing I wanted to mention is, I think this is, in at least my recent memory, one of the best attended chair launches. I'm just looking around the hall. The hall's almost full. Unfortunately, there is a small pathway right at the center so that there is line of sight for the camera where no one's sitting. So you may get the impression that there are empty seats, but it's actually and it's a very diverse hall. And I think that also speaks to Professor Narasimha's legacy and the number of people who admired his work, who've all made the effort to come here. So just thought I'll give you that context before we have you say a few words.
Hope you guys can hear me. I wanted to take the opportunity to say I'm deeply honored and humbled by all of you who here to honor Professor Narasimha's legacy. I would say that my association with Professor Narasimha was brief, but it was something that really has left an impression on me. I was at an impressionable age, but I have benefited from this brief interaction, and I do think that it's great that we have a chair with Professor Narasimha, and we kind of take that legacy forward. Professor Narasimha, he was really a Renaissance man. Science is always built on the shoulders of giants, and Professor Narasimha certainly was a giant of science. Obviously his work on boundary layers was very seminal. But not just that, I would say that he wasn't just confined to scientific research. He was also really good at administration. He was a builder of institutions, most notably the National Aerospace Laboratories and the NIAS. He really believed in furthering Indian science, which I think is, and he did it in a way that was better than pretty much most people that I can think of. And of course, I also have had the chance to witness and also read his work on the history of Indian sciences, which I also had the opportunity to look through Professor Srinivasan's obituary of Professor Narasimha and the Royal Society, and I was smiling because I've had the chance to read his Encyclopedia of Indian Sciences, and it's a must-read book for anybody researching or even being aware of what rich heritage and history we come from. I am in the process of writing up a book on the economic history of India, and the economic history of India is really, really intertwined with the scientific history of India. When we neglected science, we went into decline, and when we really prioritize science, we have really, really flourished as a country. Hopefully we keep that spirit alive. Finally, I would say that Professor Narasimha's legacy is not just his body of work, but the students that he's left behind, and a lot of the minds that he has had an impact on. And foremost among his students, Professor Srinivasan, we are very, very grateful, and I'm deeply, deeply honored that you took up this chair. Hopefully this would sort of result in really good engagement and furthering fluid dynamics work, in IIT Madras. Professor Srinivasan, he doesn't need any introduction. He is somebody who has really been a pioneer in turbulence and fluid dynamics, and he embodies all the greatest aspects of a scientist. Deep curiosity, uncompromising standard, and generosity towards younger minds. So I am deeply grateful for this event, and I'm very excited for the research that would come out of it. And thank you so much all for being present to honor Professor Narasimha's legacy.
Thank you, Mr. Arun. We truly appreciate your time and gracious presence with us today. Next, we are privileged to hear from Professor Kamakoti, Director of IIT Madras, under whose visionary leadership the institute continues to flourish.
So friends, very hearty welcome to IIT Madras. At the outset, thank you Arun for instituting this very, very important chair on name of Professor Roddam Narasimha. I just remember one incident that I need to share here. I was a postdoc at Indian Institute of Science in the Supercomputer Education Research Center in 1995 to 97. At that point of time, we got the IBM SP2, the first supercomputer of IBM being installed anywhere in India. It was a distributed memory system. And one of the interesting things was that they also came out with a compiler which can compile old Fortran code, Fortran 4 code. And at that point of time, my first set of students whom I caught were Professor Roddam Narasimha student. Okay, so I still remember him walking in the corridor, and Professor Balki introduced me to him. He said, "This is a person who is now going to do parallel computing." So I went and met several of the students, and couple of codes we did successfully parallelize at that point of time. But there are some other students who said, "Hey, you finished your PhD, you come here as a postdoc. Don't take my PhD as your pastime." Okay, so some code are very difficult to parallelize. But what I realized that's when during that particular effort that we did was a tremendous amount of interdisciplinary work that goes into aerospace. Right, and the codes were some very right from linear algebra to whatnot, and very important interfaces, adapters, so many things that we did at that point of time. So that's my very short introduction and some sort of work that I did for the group of Professor Roddam Narasimha. I just remember it today. Thank you. So as an institute, we are certainly privileged to have such type of chair positions. The name is very important here, and also the occupant here, Professor Srinivasan. Welcome to IIT Madras, and we are very happy to have that you have accepted to take this position. There are some very important interdisciplinary work that we want to embark upon. We want to take up, specifically connecting multiple disciplines. As you have seen, Arun, the syllabus that you had and the syllabus we have now are quite different. We have at least 40% as open electives, so the student can choose. 60% is your karma degree that you do, and remaining 40% you can do whatever you like, and really whatever you like. And there we are now seeing a very good interest in students trying to opt out on many areas, several times orthogonal to their parent degrees, and that essentially has encouraged us to start multiple interdisciplinary dual degree programs. And we have things like advanced manufacturing and many courses we have around 17 interdisciplinary dual degree programs, and I am sure that basic notion is amplified by having such chair positions. Professor Srinivasan, we really welcome you here, and we are looking forward to you anchoring some of these very important interdisciplinary programs. That's a request. That's a general request I make to all whom we invite for such positions. So thank you very much, and I hope we will see many more such launches. And for the alumni group, Arun, if you are going to talk to your friends there, we are also encouraging what you call as early faculty career fellowships for very young faculty who come and join. Of course, this you are Tamilian, right, Arun? Yeah. So Vadyarna Sambhavana da, not salary. Okay. We only give Dakshina, Guru Dakshina, right? The Dakshina is not matching the industry. So what we also try to do is to basically give them a little more in terms of some financial advantage and also some prestige, right? To give them some honor. Because as an academician, we are really renounced money, right? That we have done tyagam. And we don't say tyagam, that we have consciously come out of it, come out of that aspect of illusion or maya. Now and we are very happy about it. And but we just give them some prestige associated with it. So your students, your friends who can basically institute some of these chairs, early faculty career chairs, and it will be a great encouragement. We are in the I must say we are running a 100-meter dash now in trying to recruit more and more faculty. We have now touched 700 plus, and within the next 1 or 2 years we want to cross 900, and in the next 3-4 years we want to touch the magic figure of 1,000 permanent faculty, right? So that is what we are trying to push, and so all these efforts from alumni will play a very good role, right? Thank you very much, and welcome you all again for this.
I believe Sri Roddam Narasimha's wife has just joined us online. So very good evening, madam. It's lovely to have you here with us as part of this ceremony. So, yeah, madam, you're muted. If you would like to unmute and say a few words.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a big honor for me, and I would personally like to thank Arun Swaminathan for his gesture, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe Sri Roddam Narasimha's daughter Maitreyi is also there. We can't see you fully, Maitreyi. The camera has been shifted, but thank you also for coming in. And if you would like to say hello, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just concur with what my mother said. It's really very nice that alumni of an institute pay back to the institute, and I'm particularly happy that a chair has been instituted in my father's name, and I'm also incredibly delighted that Professor K.R. Srinivasan is the first occupant of this chair. So I'd just like to thank everybody for their generosity. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Sure.
Thank you, Professor. To formally present the citation of the chair occupant, may I invite Professor Sayan Gupta, Head of the Department of Applied Mechanics and Biomedical Engineering, to kindly read out the citation.
Thank you. It's actually a privilege to read out this citation, and it's a bit intimidating also. The Indian Institute of Technology Madras and the Department of Applied Mechanics and Biomedical Engineering honor Professor K.R. Srinivasan on his appointment as the inaugural Roddam Narasimha Chair Professor. This appointment bears special significance as it reunites the legacy of Professor Roddam Narasimha with one of his most distinguished doctoral students. Professor Srinivasan's academic journey began at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, where he earned his doctorate in aerodynamics with top honors. His subsequent career has spanned the globe, taking him from research positions in Australia to Johns Hopkins University and leading to distinguished professorships at Yale University, the University of Maryland, and New York University. At NYU, He holds the rare distinction of university professor, reflecting his exceptional interdisciplinary breadth with appointments in physics, engineering, and the renowned Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences. Professor Srinivasan's scientific work is defined by his consistent ability to combine theory, experiment, and large-scale numerical simulation. He is celebrated for his groundbreaking insights into the dynamics of turbulence, particularly for applying fractal theory to describe the complex, repeating geometries of flow vortices, a phenomena first observed by Leonardo da Vinci. His research has bridged the gap between these abstract geometric forms and physical reality, extending from classical fluid mechanics to quantum turbulence and the behavior of cryogenic helium, more recently quantum computing. His scholarly impact is documented in the field's most prestigious journals and recognized by its highest honors. He is a recipient of the Humboldt Research Award, a Guggenheim Fellowship, and the Distinguished Alumnus Award from the Indian Institute of Science. Notably, he has received 3 major awards from the American Physical Society: the Otto Laporte Memorial Award, the Fluid Dynamics Prize, and the Leo P. Kadanoff Prize, and the ASME Medal, which is the highest honor of the American Society of Mechanical Engineering. He is a member of the U.S. National Academies of Sciences and Engineering, the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Indian Academy of Sciences, the Indian National Science Academy, the Indian National Engineering Academy, the World Academy of Sciences, the African Academy of Sciences, and the historic Accademia di Lenci in Italy. Beyond his research, Professor Srinivasan is a transformative leader. As Dean of Engineering at NYU from 2013 to 18, he was instrumental in the historic merger of the Brooklyn Polytechnic University with NYU. He also played a pivotal role in establishing NYU Abu Dhabi, building its research infrastructure from the ground up. Previously, he served as the director of the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, where he championed the conviction that scientific excellence is essential for capacity building in the developing world, efforts recognized by the UNESCO Medal for Promoting International Scientific Cooperation, the APS Dwight Nicholson Medal for Human Outreach, the National Order of Scientific Merit from the Brazilian government and the Academy of Sciences, and the Award for International Scientific Cooperation of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Professor Srinivasan embodies the view that science is an evolving pursuit of understanding rather than a collection of absolute truths. In recognition of his seminal contributions to the physics of fluids, his institutional leadership, and his enduring connection to the Narasimha tradition, it is with distinct honor that IIT Madras confers the inaugural Roddam Narasimha Chair Professorship upon Professor K.R. Srinivasan.
Thank you, Professor. I now invite Professor Srinivasan to share a few words with us.
Director Vilinathan Kamakoti, Dean Ashwin Mahalingam, Mr. Kaviraj Nair, distinguished professors from IIT and elsewhere, friends, colleagues, special guests, and students. First, I wish to thank Mr. Arun Swaminathan for establishing this chair and by being a part of this gathering, even though it's a very different and awkward time for him. I'm truly delighted that he has been able to do this. Philanthropical acts such as his enable institutions like the IIT to do things that are above and beyond the normal means of the institution. Secondly, I appreciate IIT's generosity in bestowing this honor, which is special to me, on me, and I will do my best to support and enhance the activities of the institution, as you were requesting. I'm talking to the director. I owe special thanks to Professor Shayan Gupta, Professor Anubhav Roy, and Professor Mahesh Panchagnula. They very generously gave their time to me and also provided the assistance of their staff and students. I greatly appreciate the efforts of the Office of Alumni and Corporate Relations in keeping everything on track. A special word of thanks is due to my colleagues who have traveled for the event from far and near. I appreciate their kindness collectively and separately. Between Anubhav, Shayan, and Mahesh on the one hand and the alumni office on the other, every aspect of the logistics was handled as if with great ease, but I know that a lot of work went into it. Finally, I thank all the IIT professors, staff, and students who are in attendance, some remotely, like Dr. Nilima Narasimha and Professor Maitreyi Narasimha. In the short time I have been at IIT, my interactions with many of you have made me feel entirely at home, and I thank you for all that. Several speakers will describe Professor Roddam Narasimha, RN for short, as they saw him. Allow me to make a few personal remarks of my own. He taught me aerodynamics in 1969 and gas dynamics and turbulence in 1970. That was many, many years ago. That same year, I did a research project under his supervision and began my PhD work soon after. I submitted my thesis in 74 and went abroad in 75. Although we kept our interactions until his passing, more or less, and I continued to learn from him until the last, my student years were transformative, as I will explain. When I began working with him, I was a confident, brash, and impatient young man, trusting my underdeveloped instincts far too often. This was probably for plausible reasons. I had graduated with a BE degree with a first rank, indeed first across all three universities at the time in Karnataka. I subsequently stood first in my master's degree as well. Everything seemed easy for me. What I gradually discovered during my apprenticeship with Professor Narasimha, who was better at everything I thought I knew, was that being smart was not enough. Patience, thoughtfulness, and depth of understanding mattered more. By depth of understanding, I mean the ability to connect one's work to the larger intellectual landscape in proximity. Without making such connections, research has limited meaning. I learned that reliable instincts can be developed only through the discipline of rigorous and critical thinking. All this was invaluable. But I also drew one incorrect lesson. I had concluded that one should avoid making mistakes at all costs, that one should speak with great caution and regard instinct as something to be trusted only at some peril. As a result, the young man who had once been willing to attempt almost anything became circumspect, careful, and restrained. It took me a few more years to realize that that was not the lesson I should have learned. I was eventually able to jettison that to a large degree and learned the hard way that occasional mistakes do happen if you keep doing things, and that the only ones who make no mistakes at all are those who do nothing at all. Thus, it was only some years after leaving RN that I truly learned the right lessons from him. Those same years were transformative for RN as well. Until about 1973, his life was devoted almost entirely to science. He had produced remarkable work both at IISc and at Caltech. He was also an extraordinary teacher and wanted nothing to do with administration. Indeed, when he was offered the directorship of IIT Madras, this very institution, following Professor Pandalai, he politely declined. And he had similarly avoided serving as department chair. And of course, he had relinquished money, as you yourself pointed out. Around 1973, however, he began to be drawn into numerous national committees. A few years later, he decided to take the plunge and become the director of NIL. Other responsibilities followed one after the other. He had a hard time saying no, but never abandoned serious research, choosing instead to burn the candle at both ends. Whether that was the right lesson to have learned or not is debatable, but that too was a lesson I absorbed from him. Over time, RN developed marvelous judgment on a wide range of topics and became a highly influential scientific personality in the country. He distinguished himself through the quality of his pioneering research, his personal scholarship, his mentorship of young colleagues, and his broader scientific leadership. Beyond all that, he was a highly cultured person with amazingly wide range of interests. He was gentle, except on a few occasions when I knew him to be very fierce, and unfailingly respectful towards everyone he encountered, regardless of their status. All of that made him unique. A mathematics colleague of mine at Yale once remarked that the right way to assess an individual is to ignore all the negatives and add up all positives. Otherwise, many people could reduce to zero. In RN's case, it is clear that even if one retained all his negatives, he would still stand out as very special. I miss him very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We wish you continued success in your academic journey. To mark this momentous occasion, may I invite Professor Kamakoti and Professor Ashwin to present a token of appreciation to Professor K.R. Srinivasan. Now we have a brief but a meaningful moment. I request Mr. Shrikant B.R. to present Professor Kamakoti copies of two DRDO-sponsored coffee table books, The Incredible Journey of Indian AWACS and Radiance in Indian Skies, the Tejas Saga, as a mark of reverence and heartfelt gratitude to the late Professor Roddam Narasimha. These books, co-authored by Mr. Shrikant B.R., were written in close collaboration with Professor Narasimha and reflect his enduring contributions to India's aerospace journey. I request everyone on the dais to join for the photograph. Thank you, everyone. We now move to a special segment in the program dedicated to reflections and remembrances. This session brings together colleagues and friends of the late Professor Roddam Narasimha and Professor K.R. Srinivasan, who will share their thoughts and experiences. May I begin by inviting Professor Rama Govindarajan.
Yeah, I will speak about Professor Narasimha RN as a scientist and a mentor. And yeah, I want to say three examples of his way of thinking about science which is very different and very original. The first thing I want to say is about his paper in 1957, which he wrote as a single author at the age of 24. So he actually saw that the flow past a flat plate, how it goes to turbulence, and he recognized physically that there is a particular place at which all turbulent spots must be forming. So this was a very insightful paper right then. And much later, his work on clouds, when he realized that one of the reasons that a cloud forms at all is because it gets heated along the way by condensing water vapor rather than being heated at the bottom. So this was things. And now, as a student, I feel very lucky to have done my PhD with RN, and I know that everybody who was associated with him, either as a PhD student, master's student, summer student, and many others would like to associate themselves with him, and they've been shaped by him the way I have, and they want to be part of his family tree. So this is something very unique to him. As a PhD advisor, he always encouraged us to define our own questions, define our own PhD problem. And one nice thing that he once said, which I remember, is that you know, that he was never in a hurry to publish. And he said, we publish when we have something to say. And that stayed with me all through. And about his ethical conduct in writing papers, never to overclaim, never to overstate, that was all an amazing facet of him. Finally, I'd like to tell about this example. So this is from my PhD work. So this is, you can hear me, right? This is a boundary layer on a flat plate, and in this axis there is, which axis is that? This axis there's wave number, and this axis there's Reynolds number, and everything inside the gray portion is unstable. So up to then it was thought that this thing, and this is the distance away from the wall. So it was thought that this thing is the same everywhere away from the wall. And when I took the growth of the boundary layer into account, I found this thing where the stability Reynolds number changes a lot. It actually vanishes in this region and comes back. So there's a big difference. So when I brought this result to Narasimha, he was so excited that he called the people from NAL and he made them make this model of it. And they had to make these two thick sticks. They couldn't make it without it. And this thing had pride of place in his, among his very numerous trophies all through his life. So Maitri generously gave me this. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I invite Professor Shrikant Shastri.
Yeah, thank you. Let me begin by saying how honored I feel to be part of this event. In our life journeys, academic journeys, at an early stage, you come across somebody and you watch them and say, this is what I want to be when I grow up. And as time goes on, you realize just how hard it is to follow the footsteps of these mentors and role models that you're attracted to, as Rama was saying. And in my sort of career back in India, without a doubt, the role model and mentor that I aspired to be like was Professor Roddam Narasimha. But he was a particularly difficult choice to actually want to emulate, because he was such an amazingly multidimensional person who's not, and any one part of his career would have made for a very satisfying career for anybody like me. And Rama mentioned something about some of his work in fluid dynamics. I was not fortunate enough to have worked with Professor Narasimha. My association with him was as a younger faculty colleague at JNC, just watching him in action and being in awe of everything that he went about doing with such style and elan. And I guess in terms of my special association with him, it's sort of in broadly in his role as the director of NIAS, which he was at the time that I first met him. And in that role, not only did he sort of shepherd this institution in its activities, he actually positively gave it intellectual leadership, which I found quite amazing. And in that role, he explored many things related to the epistemology and the history of Indian science and technology. And the thing that really was very appealing was the manner in which he sort of approached these things. I mean, he really, felt, I guess, and behaved like he was a custodian of a grand intellectual tradition, which he attempted to understand and present with great rigor. And he was definitely one of the most articulate and persuasive people that I've met and interacted with, and he brought that abilities when he talked about these things. So I like to think that this combination of an engagement of a high intellectual rigor and passion and like I said, sort of the sense of being a custodian, I like to think it was something of a Baswangudi state of mind, which I shared with him. Baswangudi, for those who don't know, is a neighborhood in Chamarajpet, and that I shared with Professor Narasimha and with Professor Srinivasan, and I in the last 10 years of his life, one of the pleasant reasons to go into work was that his office was on the way to mine, and I would invariably stop and talk about a very wide range of things, and he always had something very interesting to say about many different types of topics, and he would always present them so beautifully. And this in my own activities outside of my research work, he was invariably a part of the scheme of things. I remember very fondly a workshop called Vijnana Jignase that we conducted in a remote part of Karnataka called Hegodu, where he was sort of the leading scientific figure in an audience that had both scientists and artists and writers, and there were in those discussions moments of disagreement, quite strong ones, with, for example, with a well-known writer in Karnataka called U.R. Anantamurthy, and it was fun to watch that fight, which was on both sides, conducted with great engagement, passion, but civility at the same time. And so for me, if I think about as somebody practicing science, what all you could be, Roddam embodied everything that one could aspire to me, and he realized it in his own career at a very high level. So I find myself, I feel that I was very fortunate to have him as a colleague, an older colleague, and so I want to also join in thanking Arun for the institution of this chair. I think it's a wonderful gesture. It's a wonderful way of paying respect to somebody who has sort of molded your your career, your life and way of thinking. And there could be no better person than Professor Srinivasan, who in so many respects is the inheritor of Professor Narasimha's legacy. And so I'm very happy to be in this celebration. Thank you for having me come here and say a few words.
Thank you, Professor. I invite Dr. Vidyadhar Mutkavi to share his remarks.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy that Mrs. Narasimha is online and also Maitreyi. First and foremost, I would like to thank Arun Srinivasan. I've never met him. I think you have done a great service to science of India. Okay, thank you very much. Professor Srinivasan and other members of the audience here. My first encounter was when I joined for ME in ISC back in 1983. He addressed the newcomers. He was the chairman of the department at that time. He looked so young, like he was all goatee beard and very black hair. So as very, like young students who didn't have much about experience, oh, how can somebody so young be chairman of the department kind of thing, Then I think after that he had gone to Caltech for a while, and when it was time for doing thesis work, master's thesis, he had put out a few, projects. One of the thing was the vortex sheet modeling for mixing layers. Okay, right. He had given that project to a previous student, and there he was looking at the vortex sheet point vortex modeling for the mixing layers. And then his idea was use sheets rather than point vortices. Okay, so, and I had done something in the point vortices before in BTech, so it felt quite natural that I should go and meet him, right? And I asked him, like, I would like to do this project with you. So quite happy with that. And then the first thing he asked me, do you know Fortran? Because that was the first thing he wanted to know, right? Yeah. And so I began my work there, and he had certain ideas, and then I did the modeling and everything, and then I produced the first graphs which started looking like the coherent vertices that he had seen in Brown and Roshko's experiments. He was so overexcited about that, and he said it's all the features were captured by a very simple model, right? So when Bachelor had visited, he particularly brought him to the lab and showed those simulations on this one. And he also made a statement. Now he's going to come and join you in Cambridge, he said. I was wondering why, right? I didn't know what he had in mind. In fact, he insisted that I should go to Cambridge. But it so happened that I went to Caltech instead. And I figured that when in Caltech you used to visit every year, even as a director, I think it was one of the preconditions to NAL saying that he should be allowed to go to Caltech every year as a visiting professor. And the respect that he had in GalSet was amazing, right? Just tremendous respect he held in the GalSet community in Caltech, right? So I had done some work also for my PhD again along the same vortices and all that, and I showed him some equations I had derived. Immediately he said, "Oh, this look like gas dynamic equations." So his ability to see the connections, like you mentioned, like I wasn't even aware of that connection. That suddenly, gave me a much deeper physical insight into what actually it meant, right? So that kind of a person he was. Later on, of course, I came and joined NAL. He was still the director at that time. One of the first project that came up was vortex modeling for UK. This was to do the aircraft wake vortex modeling. Again, he was at Caltech, and then I had just joined. He wrote a mail to the head of the department saying that you should ask such and such person who joined NAL recently. He has the right expertise. Ask him to make a proposal. So he knew almost everybody, what they're doing in a vast lab. He had restructured that lab. In fact, often used to tell us about how he went about restructuring the lab in terms of a more efficient manpower. He established the Center for Mathematical Modeling and Computer Simulation. So all those things he had done, and then we were only beginning to learn the vast impact of this man's work in aerospace domain, right? So when that project was going on, he was very particular that the image of the NAL is attached to that project, facilitated everything as a director, and he had constituted a committee, and he was chairman of the committee. Every week we would meet, and he was the only person who will review so thoroughly that work. And every document we give him, he would pull out his red pen and go through meticulously in spite of all his busy schedule. That is, I think everybody knows that kind of rigor and insight he could derive from the looking at the documentation. First thing he would do is he will not even look at you. Just first thing is look at the letters there, right? That was the kind of person. And the second thing that we realized was his contribution to parallel computing in India. I think that is something that is an enormous contribution. He was the one who was instrumental in actually develop and bringing the parallel computing to the country. When in NAL as in his capacity director of NAL, he called upon the people within NAL to take up the job of building the parallel computer. It was surprising that people in the computer science department didn't come forward. It was Dr. UN Sinha, who was basically a fluid dynamicist with a background in mathematics. He said, I will build it, right? The main point is not whether Sinha built it or not. Main point is about his vision as to how it should be built. He made a statement. Actually, there is a very clear statement. He said, take off-the-shelf component is one of the key words he had used in that one, saying that that is how you should build it, rather than, so he had actually visualized how the parallel computing should be built. So that program took off very well. The first parallel computer in the country was realized because of his vision. And then people at that time used to actually put down parallel computing. Even in my own division, where people who were involved in serious computing would say that, why do you want to do a parallel computing? Next year you will have a more faster processor. It will beat your parallel computer. But he persisted on that. Of course, today we see only parallel computers, nothing else, right? Then naturally it took us to weather modeling. And then he was so passionate about monsoons, very passionate about monsoon. He was very passionate about monsoon predictions. And that was a program which he wholeheartedly supported in NAL. And I was fortunate to be part of that one. The code that was earlier, which was only Cray specific, was actually ported on to NAL's own parallel supercomputer. And then we were able to incorporate some of the research work he had done as part of his Montplex experiments, right? They had looked at the new scaling laws. We were able to actually incorporate that into the code there, which actually improvised the cyclone prediction, cyclone tracks. Okay, so somehow that has not really been realized, appreciated by the weather community in the country. But that is something that we had shown. So he's very passionate about computing, parallel computing, specifically monsoon, and of course the other passion was civil aeronautics. And he was really fond of that one. One thing that didn't happen is he wanted this parallel computing effort to become part of the industry, which didn't happen. He wanted that technology to go there. That didn't happen. And we were really, the other thing was the SARAS aircraft project, which didn't realize its goal before, of his passing. That is one thing I think remains very unfortunate. We hope that, that will happen someday. And our association with him is not just as students, but we looked up to him as a mentor and a teacher. Of course, everybody knows about his scholarship. I don't have to say anything. We were, I think, one of the lucky best. Thank you very much. Thank you, IIT Madras, for setting up this chair. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Mutkavi. I invite Professor Balachandar to share his remarks.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to this event. And I'm from Florida, and it happens that I happen to be in Chennai at this time. So it's an absolute delight to be part of this wonderful event. Um, I first want to say a few words about Aaron. Um, Roddam Narasimha is a giant in the fluid mechanics field. He's a great leader, not just in India. I speak from my experience in the US and European theater. He's an international giant in fluid mechanics and aerospace technology, etc. So he's internationally extremely well respected, and especially for people like me who was born and brought up here but went abroad. It's sort of a father figure, um, a visionary that we wanted to follow. But I must tell you that I did not know Aaron when I was a graduate student when I went there. My introduction to Aaron was through KRS. I was a grad student at Brown. Of course, I didn't know a whole lot, and I was told what I should do. And I was doing research in fluid mechanics. And Yale was just around the corner. And KRS was a legend. He was working with some amazing people in Mandelbrot in the math department. And they were sort of rediscovering and sort of changing the field of turbulence and our understanding using multifractal models and things like that. It was making international waves, and obviously from India, and him from also India. And I had to follow up who is this man who is making such incredible news, and in my field in turbulence. And obviously I was looking at CV, and I looked at Aaron, and I said that guru of this late leader must be an amazing guy. So I started reading about Aaron, and then I realized that he was a legend at Caltech. He wrote a thesis that was absolutely one of the brilliant piece of work at a place like Caltech. So he was a legend. So then I went to Illinois as a young faculty, and I wanted to take sabbatical, and I was looking for places to visit. So obvious place that I thought of was, well, I should go to IAC and work with Roddam. But this was much after 1973 or whatever that year. So he has become an administrator. Of course, he was very much involved in research. So I wrote to him. He was a busy man. One of the amazing things is that he wasn't brushing me off. I was just a lowly assistant professor, and he said he was very courteous, very kind, and he told me that well, you can't come to IISc because he wasn't at that time IISc. He was at JNC. So he said that why don't you visit me at JNC? And but he arranged for everything. And Rama was my immediate host. And it was an absolute delight to work with Aaron. I learned a lot about hydrodynamic stability during that visit. And then when I went back, I invited him. And he was most generous and courteous. And he visited and gave an amazing seminar at University of Illinois. Other than that, I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with Aaron. But with KRS, I have incredible interaction because when I was a grad student, I was hanging around with several of his grad students, Peter Strakowski's and Charles Menavou. Some of they are leaders and amazing leaders themselves now, but KRS was their advisor, and obviously from their students I know a lot of interesting stories, but I will save them for a different time and a different place. But one thing I want to mention that I knew very much about what KRS has done in multifractal theory, but controlling flows was a big thing. So at that time there was a big splash they were in their lab controlling wake flow. Wake flow is nothing but for people who are not in fluid mechanics. You stand and you watch a river flow over a bridge pier, and you see big, large vortices coming out on the downstream side. Those vortices are persistent and you cannot get rid of them. And they came up with an amazing method where you just perturb the flow at a single point somewhere downstream. I still don't know how they came upon that. Maybe he could elaborate on that. So that became a big news. So how to control complex turbulent flow is another area that KRS has done some amazing work. So I can go on for a lot more on some of his amazing contributions. But let me stop there. So these are some of the giants in the field, and this chairship was wonderful, and KRS being the first recipient of it is a perfect tribute to both. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I invite Professor S.P. Venkatesan to share his remarks.
Yeah, good afternoon. It is a little late, I think, so I may say only a few words. I and KRS, we did ME and PhD together in IIT Bangalore. And then I went to Yale, and he also came to Yale subsequently. And we have known each other for quite a while, maybe 1962 or something like that. And Professor Narasimha I knew for a very long time. He used to be at Caltech, and my brother who is sitting there also did PhD at Caltech, and they knew each other. And Professor Dr. Nilima was also there. And I have still pictures of 1972, 62 or 63, some of the pictures of that time, where all of them are there in the pictures, going to picnic, doing things of that sort. My interaction with Narasimha was totally personal, and I took only one course, which I think Srinivasan also mentioned, the gas dynamics, I think. Gas dynamics, we did that. After that, I didn't have any academic interaction with him directly, and my interaction was purely personal, and we had some common interest in history of Mysore, which I think many of you may not be aware of. And we used to discuss a lot about Mysore history, and that used to be our main subjective interaction. And I also used to visit their house very often in those days when I was a graduate student at IIT Bangalore. It used to be almost like every weekend I used to be there with them, spend a whole lot of time, and also eat the food there and so on and so forth. It was a very personal. In fact, one thing I would like to say is that as a person, he was a very, very nice person, and I have not seen anybody of that scientific achievement, and also that at the personal level, he was very, very nice and kind, and he would treat everybody with equal respect. I think Professor KR has also mentioned it already, and that's about it, I think. It was nice knowing him, and I am very happy to see that KRS is now occupying the first chair in the name of Dr. RN, and I wish him all the success in that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And finally, I invite Professor C. Balaji to share his remarks.
KRS, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. So the speaker before me, Professor Venkatesan, was my PhD advisor. So he was a student of Professor Narasimha. So you can see that it's an enduring and continuing legacy. So my relationship with Professor Narasimha started 20 years back when I was a faculty member here, and just like one of the earlier speakers, I approached him for a summer fellowship in JNC. Professor Rama was the coordinator. So I wanted to be in IIC working with Professor both JS and Professor Roddam Narasimha. He said, you come over and all that. By that time, Professor JS has already talked to him. So first day he called me, oh Balaji, you want to be here? but I am not here. I am in Jakur. So we'll manage, don't worry. He said next day he took me in his car and said, Professor Rama was also there. So he's Balaji, so he's a professor in IIT Madras, so he's going to work on all this turbulence and wall function and all that. But he won't be here. He will he will work only from this thing. So all your bank account, everything you take care. 2 months you be there. You have to give a lecture. Don't worry. I'll ask Srinivasan to arrange the lecture here. And in a van or bus, all of them, including Professor Narasimha, came. That generosity, and it's mind-boggling. Okay. So I think the way he nurtures young people, the way he treats younger colleagues, the way he's able to spot talent is amazing. So even my student Subbu, we learned Mridangam together, and he was my student of thermodynamics. Now he is in charge of the hypersonic wind tunnel facility of Professor RN. So you see at least 3 generations of students here. All the 3 generations are associated with Professor RN. And he was also the chairman of the Joint Scientific Working Group of the Megatropics mission. So he's very fond of clouds, mega. So even 6 months or 8 months prior to his passing away, he was here. He actually initiated endowment in the honor of his daughter's name, Aditi Sima. Okay. At that time, he gave a lecture in ICSR about clouds. He was still saying, same hall, and he was telling us that I'm going to publish this paper. He was already 85 plus. Okay, so I'm sure that that name Megatropics is inspired by Professor himself, Professor RN himself, because he would have prevailed upon the French that you put whatever tropics you want. The first word mega is ours, that Megatropics. So they were all, everybody used to stand up, French guys, all this, so he commanded so much of respect and all. Coming to Professor KRS, that lecture I gave was on wall function. This wall function work I did when I was Humboldt Fellow in Germany. So we have referred to his work on the Nimala and Srinivasan. I talked to him the other day also. It's amazing. So basically that simple question you want to answer is the Nusselt number. So I'm sorry, I'm taking a class in heat transfer. The dimensionless heat transfer coefficient scales as Rayleigh number to the power of something. So I think it's so much of hard work to find out, is it 0.28, is it 0.3, or is it 0.32 or 0.33? In order to establish whether it's 0.33 or 0.34 at a high Rayleigh number, okay, is amazing experimental setup with the cylindrical cavity, with heat losses and all that. So I think that the conviction that, okay, that this high Rayleigh number will scale as this, the Nusselt number, then I'll go to any extent to sort this out and prove this beyond doubt. That's it. That is the finality. Nimala and Srinivasan is the ultimate paper if anybody wants to go through high Rayleigh number convection. Okay, we are very happy that we have been able to do this. It's an honor the institute is bestowing upon itself, and we are extremely delighted that a person of the caliber of Professor KRS has kindly agreed to be this chair and agreed to spend time with us. I think it is a big motivation for all the youngsters. You should learn from these giants. Okay, so it's a very happy afternoon. I'm more than pleased. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. To conclude today's ceremony, I invite Ms. Shweta Bhupati, Senior Manager, Alumni Relations, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IIT Madras and the Office of Alumni and Corporate Relations, IIT Madras, I extend my sincere thanks to Prof. V. Kamakoti, Director IIT Madras, for his inspiring address. I would like to thank Professor Ashwin, Dean Alumni and Corporate Relations, and Mr. Kavraj Nair, our CEO, for their warm welcome and address. I also thank Mr. Arun Swaminathan for his continued support. I would like to thank Dr. Maitreyi and Dr. Nilima Narasimha for joining us today. My sincere thanks to Prof. K.R. Srinivasan for honoring us as the chair occupant for his reflections on Prof. Roddam Narasimha's legacy. I thank all our speakers, distinguished faculty, family members, friends, and the organizing team for their support and presence on this special occasion. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, Shweta, for the closing words. I now request everyone to rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you everyone for joining us and gracing this occasion. We will shortly begin the Roddam Narasimha Visiting Chair Lecture titled Circulation Hits the Wall, to be delivered by Professor K.R. Srinivasan in the TTJ Auditorium. I request all our guests to join us for the lecture series.
Thank you, sir.